Hi, I'm Dr. Maggie Perry. This is Tell Me What You're Proud Of, and we are with the third session with Larissa. So this month we've been talking about preparing for the anxious moment, which includes 4 steps. First, we want to identify an anxious moment as an opportunity to practice. And what we mean by that is we can't just learn to, once we acknowledge that we have anxiety and that it's created, maintained, and intensified by avoidance, we can't just learn intellectually that we should no longer avoid. We actually have to get our body anxious and then get into the anxious situation and teach ourselves that we're not in threat by not avoiding, in order for our brains to actually relearn that whatever seemed threatening is actually not threatening. So the reason that we start with identifying triggers as opportunities to practice is because we need to orient ourselves towards approach rather than avoidance. So the next thing that we're going to do is be ready for our anxious interpretations. And so that can be noticing I'm having the thought that, for instance, my rapid heartbeat means that I'm going to have a heart attack. And if I had a heart attack, then, I would die from that heart attack, or there'd be other consequences for myself and my family. That type of thing would be an anxious interpretation of the initial sensation of like a rapid heartbeat. So we want to identify the anxious interpretations that we can expect. We want to commit to our values. So in the last group, we were talking about how commitment to values helps you practice the willing attitude of acceptance. And then finally today, Larissa and I are going to talk about what self-talk helps us commit to helps us show up to the present moment, willing to accept the anxiety that we're experiencing. So first off, Larissa, can you just summarize for us again what types of triggers you have, like whether they're internal or external? What triggers your anxiety?
Well, actually, I think I have both internal and external. External situations, I'm really starting to look at the different phases of my external triggers, and that's really helping me to move to that place where I can have healthy self-talk instead of letting the situation make me even more anxious, and then it turns into negative thinking. So, but both external and internal. Do you want examples of them, or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, well, like an example of an external trigger could be, well, actually, just I realize anytime I do something new or different, like when I used to work as a nurse, I always enjoyed being part of a team. But when I went on in my education, I was put in more like a leadership role or administrative role. And that was so anxiety producing. And I wish I knew then what I know now. Because
in what sense?
Well, the feelings I had led me to think I wasn't competent, I couldn't do it, I'm going to fail, and then I would start to avoid, and it really made the situations difficult. If I were to do it now, I could say, okay, I'm feeling anticipatory anxiety. This is something new, and I'm bound to feel this way. It's just a thought. It's a feeling. It doesn't mean it's a real threat. I'm ready for this opportunity, or I probably wouldn't have been presented with it. But I didn't have the confidence at the time, or I didn't know enough about my anxiety to even realize I was anxious. It wasn't my anxiety was not a sign of incompetency. So what happened often is when I got in that situation, and it also happens like with COVID, if I'm in a situation that feels threatening, I have trouble just focusing on that present moment. And my anxiety was over, and then I felt like I had to run or avoid it, or I made a mistake even trying to do this.
And if I can just summarize that back to you then. Basically, you're saying that one of the external triggers that you've had throughout your life is when presented with a new opportunity, your mind, you'd get anticipatory anxiety like this because it was challenging and uncertain. but your mind would interpret that challenging, uncertain opportunity as like the sensations meant that you were incompetent, or
Mhm.
that it was a threat and a prediction that you were going to do something wrong. So then in the presence of that opportunity, you might have either like completely avoided it, so not taking the leadership position, or went towards it with while like bracing against it. And so lots of people go through their lives, um, not completely situationally avoiding, but avoiding the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that come with the new opportunity in front of them, always kind of thinking that they're incompetent and that the feelings that they're having means that they're not going to be able to do the thing that they're doing. So the self-talk that you just used, that okay, I'm having the feeling of anxiety. This means I would say this means I'm doing something I care about. It's challenging and uncertain, and my body gives me extra adrenaline when I'm doing something challenging and uncertain that I care about. And it isn't a message, prediction, or threat. It's okay that these sensations are here. I can redirect my attention back to the present and just continue to focus on the skill in front of me rather than what's happening internally.